when I played up there, we were double A team was the highest level we had the whole way up. It was a great league. I grew up with a great group of players. We actually had, I think, 7 of us go Division I. One of the guys was baseball. He went on a baseball scholarship, but would have been a hockey player in college if he had chosen that route. So we, in a fairly small town of the Sioux, it was a pretty unique growing up experience. The first time I played AAA was in midgets, and then I went on and played junior and went to Ferris State, played college, but at no point certainly was I able to lead. The other thing I'd say, we were able to win the Calder Cup when I was in Grand Rapids, and I had a Calder Cup party in which I invited a lot of friends and whatnot. One of the 2 people I wanted to invite right away was my 2 youth coaches because of the impact they had on me. One of them was able to make it. It was a really cool night to see him and thank him for everything that he did for me.
Last year with the Joe, that's kind of the theme here, plus with Michigan. Does that impact you? I mean, you grew up in the state. Does it impact you at all, or is it just business as usual?
Well, the reason I wanted to get that video, the reason that Dan, sent that video to me was, I think it's something that's. I talked to our team at the beginning of the year about the incredible opportunities we have, and I want to make sure that we always remember how special of an organization we get to be a part of, and to be a part of the last year of Joe Louis and the memories that you saw behind it is really incredible. So I think it's a big thing that we're going to take advantage of in respect from the first day of training camp.
First year to second year for you. What are you looking forward to? What did you learn that you think, I'm sure you learned a lot, but what was the one thing, if you could single out, that you learned that you carry forward?
Well, I think the one difficulty in the National Hockey League is the lack of practice time. And the schedule dictates, it's really hard to understand the schedule until you live it. It is such a grind that it's such a balance between rest and practice. And you're always, if you talk to an NHL coach, they'll all tell you they're trying to find practice time. And people take different approaches. I know in Boston, I think they skated the last 13 days straight of the season. I know in Chicago, Joe Quenneville, he's a big believer in days off. They don't practice much. And I think
Pittsburgh went to that too.
Yeah, Pittsburgh did some of that. So it is a real balance. It's hard to keep your structure, and it's hard to keep your habits if you don't practice, but you have to have energy to win. So that was probably one of the biggest balances. We're going to do some things with heart rate monitors, get a little more in depth with that during practice, have our guys wear that. The question I always ask when I come off the ice in practice to our coaches is, did we work them hard enough? Did we work them too hard? And we're trying to get a little more scientific feedback on that as well.
Perfect transition. We polled. We appreciate everybody that supplied questions. This is going to be the youth hockey version of that professional answer. Coach, do you believe young players learn from gameplay? And number 2, can teams practice too much without games?
That's an interesting question. I have an 8-year-old, I have a 10-year-old boy, an 8-year-old daughter, and a 6-year-old boy all playing. So I get to see it from, I'm not an expert in youth hockey. I coach in the NHL, I've coached in junior, I've coached in college, but I've seen lots of different experiences in youth hockey, and again, now I'm living it with my kids. I try not to go on the ice with them too much because then I want to strangle them, but that's a whole different story. This is what I'd say. I'm a huge believer. The only way you get better at stuff is by practicing, and you do it over and over and over again. I'm a huge believer in simple drills. I'm a huge believer in repetition, but within that, you have to be able to keep it fun. They have to have passion and enjoy going to the rink. So I think 2 things. One, you have to find ways within your practices to make it fun. I utilize small games all the time for that. We do it with the Red Wings almost every day. When I went to Grand Rapids, for the Grand Rapids players, it was the thing they enjoyed the most about our practices, the way we utilize small games. And it's not just for funsies. We're training their habits. We're training, we're developing their skill, but we're doing it in a setting where they're competing. What games does do, though, in youth hockey is kids like it. So you have to balance, I believe, the practice with games. My son said to me, about in the last week 10 times, when are we going to play? When are we going to play? When are we going to play? So I get that, but you certainly don't want to just play because then the kids will never get better at anything.
And if I could add to that, from my experience in youth hockey, kids do sign up to play hockey, not practice hockey. So you've got to make sure that your practices feel like games, fun. That doesn't mean scrimmaging, that means making it fun, so they're looking forward to it, like the coach said. Here's a little lighter question. When are you going to put the goalie pads back on?
For those that, I actually get a chance now to put them on once a year. It's funny, our guys were skating the other day. They're just kind of getting ready, and they have their what I guess you term captain skates or whatnot, and they skate on their own, and they were missing a goalie, so they were on me to play goalie, and luckily we were out of equipment. We honestly had no equipment for it. The guys had their equipment at home, so I will play goaltender on September 23rd up in Traverse City, Michigan, for anybody that wants to get a good laugh. We have a celebrity / alumni / staff game that we play up there on the Saturday at training camp, and honestly it's been great. Now this year we're missing some guys because of the World Cup of Hockey, including Ken Holland, but Ken puts the pads on and he wears the same pads that he wore in 1979, and he's outstanding with those pads. I put the newer version on, and I'm a way better goalie today than I ever was because of the equipment, I can guarantee you that. So, but I'll be up there playing that for those that want to watch.
Did you change your style with the gear or no?
Yeah, no, totally. Honestly, I'm a way, but I would say I'm a better goaltender now than because one, I've had a chance to coach goaltending and see a better way to coach it. So that's one, and two, the equipment's 1,000 times better, as you know.
Yeah,
as you know.
You're still young enough to make the moves. I can't get about it.
Eddie Meals, my partner, he's waiting for a hip transplant too. So he says to me, I'm playing the whole time, I'm going to be dead. So
you will be playing a lot. He's part of those alumni games. Another question about youth, but not from a player standpoint, coaching standpoint. Explain to everyone. Balance from teaching that and touches, core skill development, puck touches, and those things.
So I just spoke at the Level 5 USA Hockey Clinic, and I'll tell you the message I said to that group. The number one way for the Detroit Red Wings, the number one way for improvement of the Detroit Red Wings, for us to take our ceiling and make it higher, by far and away, the number one way will be the individual development of our players and creating unreal habits within our players, so that at the end of the year, we're awesome at every little detail. Our ability to get pucks on the wall, our ability to not have to handle the puck and shoot it on a one-timer, our ability to corner on our edges coming out of the corners. That will be the biggest impact on how good we are. We're going to start every practice the way football starts. So if you go to a football practice, quarterback's coach is working with the quarterback. Linemen are working with the linemen, receivers. Now, obviously, we don't have the number of coaches that they have, but we're going to start every practice with the forwards working on certain specific skills, the D working on certain specific skills, so that we make sure we have the growth of our players. Systems, we can get guys to play on one page in about 2 weeks. It doesn't take long to implement systems and get them all to play on the same page. There's no magic system. All you want to do is get people to play on the same page and do it well together. But that doesn't take long at all. So once we've created that ceiling of getting 5 guys on the ice playing together, how can we be better? The only way is by the individual development of our people. So I think far and away, if I go to my kids' youth, the only time I'll get involved in coaching with my youth coaches, if I go to my kids' youth practices and they're doing too many systems, I'll step in and say, just so you know, I think it's wrong. I think they got to get better at skills, because there's a ton of different forechecks out there. I heard this line the other day. Nobody came here to watch Pavel Datsyuk forecheck. Like they came here to watch Pavel Datsyuk do unbelievable things with his hands and his feet and his thinking. That's what makes great players.
And compete. Forechecking and backchecking at the youth level is just instilling competition. To me, that's what they came. The couple different ways this is phrased, but we'll just simplify it. Are we going to win the cup this year?
Yes.
Okay, here's what I thought was an important, a different question. How important do you think it is for a core group of players to stay with a coach over the youth years?
So this is another interesting thing that I'm living a little bit right now. One of the disappointing things, I think again, moving to the Detroit area, we've got great coaches and great hockey in this area for certain. Having the opportunity to have my kids grow up in Michigan in general, we were in Kalamazoo, they run a great program, we're in Grand Rapids, they run a great program. We've been lucky because we've been in great hockey areas. One of the challenges, I think, in this particular area in Detroit is there's so many options. And there's so many options for coaches in terms of players. And what I see is a lot of recruiting becoming more important than maybe the development of just this core group of guys and girls and moving them along. I look for that exactly. I want to see a group of coaches, and I think I'm really lucky with my oldest son. I found a group that they're doing that exactly. They took this core group of players. Their whole goal is to keep that group together and just make them better. That's what I grew up with in Sault Ste. Marie, because we didn't have other options. And I don't think it's a challenge that we face here, especially in Detroit, but certainly in other areas. I know Grand Rapids as well. To be careful with the idea of trying to make your sport or Pee Wee team the best by adding this kid and getting rid of these couple kids, because these couple kids may end up being way better if you just develop them and help them get better through time. I think that's the number one thing. Ultimately, what's the end goal? I say this all the time. I've talked to the elite of elite 15-year-olds when I was coaching college hockey. We bring them in, Stamkos, Tavares, the whole crew, and I'd say to them all the time, what's your end goal? I'd ask the kids, does anybody grow up dreaming of being a great minor midget? And not one of them raised their hand. Did you grow up dreaming of being an NHLer? They all raised their hand. Then you gotta keep getting better. If you stay status quo, people are gonna pass you by. What's the end goal? The end goal for these kids, they want to win, absolutely. When the puck's dropped, you want to win for sure. We want to compete. But the end goal has to be developing them as people, number one, and as players, number two. Winning should be the third of those goals, in my opinion.
Along with that, again, the other side of that, with staying with the core group, it's the way everybody gets better. It's even the way your better kids get better, because they bring your lower end kids up, and the next year that mix changes, and the year after that it changes again. Here's one again. Take this for granted. What does everyone or you do during intermission in the locker room?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's I was at the NASCAR race 2 weeks ago, and we sat in the pit in the pit suites there, and it was amazing to watch the pit crews. And as soon as that driver leaves, they're right to the video, and they're watching the video of how that pit stop went and how they can get better. Video has become a huge thing in sports, and it certainly is in hockey. So I'll speak first to me, and then we'll speak about the players. When I get off the bench, right away we come in and we'll watch some type of video, whether it's a lot of times it's our scoring chances for or scoring chances against. If we're struggling in a certain area, I'll say pull up all the neutral zone forechecks. What are we not doing well? If there was a particular play or two, I would have already told one of our assistants to tell our video coaches marking the game live. So as we sit on the bench, we have two video coaches marking the game live on the computer, and they can pull up all those things instantaneously when we come in between periods. Now, you run out of time in a hurry, but you get as much as you can. You know what you saw. The video never lies. Let's complement that. The other thing then that we do is, and our players have asked for this, so our power play will roll. As our players get into the locker room, our power plays that we have roll on the screen so they can watch those and see that for themselves where they think there's areas and whatnot. And then they just basically take a rest and get ready for the next period.
And I know as players, guys, everyone does it differently, but you relax and refocus all within that 18 minutes and get ready for the next shift. From a motivational standpoint, what techniques do you use to motivate your players at the pro level?
Well, I think I've been asked this question lots. What's the difference? Again, I coach junior hockey, I coach college hockey, coach the American League and the NHL. I think the principles of coaching are exactly the same. Number one, you have to hold your players accountable. And I say this all the time, I have to let them know when they're on the path to greatness and when they're not on the path to greatness. That's the number one thing. So from a motivational standpoint, I don't give lots of big speeches and things like that. I make sure they know that they're either on that path or they're not. And then the other side of that would be trying to find ways in which, how can they be the most successful at what they do and celebrate those ways. So not all of them are going to be our leading scorers, but Luke Glendenning's critically important to our hockey team. Let's make sure we celebrate the ways in which he impacts our team very differently than a Henrik Zetterberg might impact our team. I think that's an important part.
Last one, and it's a two-parter. Who do you think will win the World Cup of Hockey?
I was at the exhibition for the U.S. Canada on Friday. It was unreal. It was like a Stanley Cup Game 7 with the first game they've played, and so it was incredible to me to watch. There's fights, there's guys laying in front of the net with empty. It was unbelievable. So my first thought was somebody's getting injured in this tournament. I hope it's not one of our guys. And my second thought was this is going to be awesome to watch. I think it'll be even, maybe it's because I'm a U.S. guy. If U.S. and Canada end up in the finals and they've had to play each other a total of 6 times at that point between exhibition and deployments, I think it'll be incredible. I'll say this, I hope the U.S. wins.
Very good. Okay, so now here's a very interesting second part of this that I haven't even considered it. Is it good for hockey to start the season with such an exciting event? Now, the easy answer is yes, right? But I guess the next part, what they're saying is then you have to come down to preseason hockey in the NHL.
It's interesting. In the preseason, we're not going to have. I'm giving our guys 5 days off after they're eliminated from the World Cup, so we'll be missing some guys during our exhibition season. Other teams will be as well. That'll make the exhibitions a little bit different. I don't know the best way to do it. I mean, the Olympics is an unbelievable event, but you have to stop the season mid-year. There's challenges with that. I don't know the best way. I just know I'm going to enjoy the way they're doing it. It was honestly, it was incredible hockey. Now, I think some of the other exhibitions weren't as good that I've seen, but once I think it gets into the prelim, I think it's going to be incredible. So we'll just enjoy it.
Well, we certainly enjoyed having you, Tim. We can't thank you enough for coming out, and everyone here for sticking around and having Coach Blashill talk to you about hockey in Michigan. Coach, any last words for the group?
Just again to thank this group. This group's critical to the development of so many of our youth in Michigan. So just to thank you to this group, and obviously special thanks for me having 3 kids in it. So thank you.
Thanks, Coach. And thanks to all of you.